All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. I have Kyla, Boucher, Jennifer Tecca, Andrew Panneck, all from Employment Security Department. I'm also from Employment Security Department, so these are my peers, and I'm happy they're up here to share. As you heard, Ish in the opening comments talk about that our agency is really that safety net for those individuals who lose their job and no fault of their own. And honestly, it takes at least some basic knowledge about unemployment insurance as well, because sometimes the customer doesn't realize that they lost a job on their own. That they need an advocate like us to say, apply anyways. Let unemployment insurance be the one that figures out if you're a yes or a no, you're gonna get it, right? And a lot of my time that I had veterans that I was working with that were unsure how they were going to pay their mortgage or pay their rent, how are they going to keep their food on the table for their family during this gap in employment, and me encouraging them to apply for unemployment anyways, they got money that they never would have gotten otherwise. So this is a small crowd, guys, but this is a very big topic, and I really appreciate you being here as advocate for the veterans that you're working with, because absolutely people lose their jobs. And it seems like maybe they did something wrong, but it turns out that that employer had some obligations to meet to protect that employee and make sure that they could continue to be an employee. And now the employee is eligible for unemployment insurance, right? So this is you got some experts here. I hope you have questions, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay. So I'll get us started. So we wanted to present about unemployment insurance. And there's a lot of misconceptions about it, when they should apply, when shouldn't they apply, and really everyone should apply. And even if they don't qualify for UI, some other agencies and social services, when you get help from them, you have to have, they want to know if you qualified, if you're receiving money from UI first. So we encourage everyone who's lost their job and struggling to apply, and especially those coming out of the military. Personally, I raised 4 boys. They're all out of the house, which is nice and peaceful now. I see Hannah laughing, and Hannah she actually taught a couple of them how to watch ski. I thought might be drowning by now out there, but she persevered. Our one son specifically, he was in the Air Force, and when he got out, he attended all the classes, and being the mom, I lectured him. You be sure to take notes, you have to do things on time, you have to have all your documents together, be organized. And when you file your unemployment claim, if you haven't found work, have this information ready. And it's like, okay, mom, okay, And then when I'm not reaching him anymore because his cell phone's been turned off a few weeks later, well, it's because his DD-214 had the wrong date on it because they moved the date that he was ending. And so he didn't think he could file for unemployment, so he went with no help for several weeks. But does he even tell me, his mother, who works in this? And he's in California, but no, he doesn't. And so it's only by me, like, okay, talk to my husband, okay, it has to be one of these carriers, I'm gonna call. And so I got his phone turned back on, and then like 10 minutes later, call your mother, I'm texting. And he's like, Mom, I don't have my DD-214, and they don't know when I'm gonna get it, but I keep asking every week, and and so, I told him to go to the unemployment office in California. I don't know what it's called. If you can't find it, I can look it up for you. But go there, they will help you. And sure enough, they backdated his claim, got it taken care of, and then as soon as he got his DD-214, which ended up being like a week and a half later, then he got paid for those weeks that he was entitled to. And so it's really important to make sure they understand that they don't have to have everything in a row. There's all types of claim applications we get that are incomplete. If we have enough information, we can get it in the system, and then once it's all ready and complete, then they can get paid for those weeks. So I just share that personal story, just like, convince them if you can, try to point them in the right direction, because, why don't they speak up and reach out? I don't know, this is a child I raised, so I don't know, why don't they ask? But certain people want to try to solve it on their own, and they think they're doing the right thing, but there's so much more that could be done to help. And so Kyla and Andrew are the technical experts who do this every day of their work life. And I am a program manager with Employment Security, so I just kind of help interpret laws and implement changes and stuff like that. But so if there's questions we can't answer, know that we can get them for you if you just talk to one of us afterwards. And we have a handout with a QR code on the back that will take you straight to our website and stuff, and there's a lot of information there. But otherwise, we'll get the presentation started. Starting out, let's go to the first screen. We're just going to go over the basics of how to apply, the requirements of what's needed. If you're attending school or wanting to do additional training, how that can work with UI. If you're a military spouse, there's specific rules. If you're moving to follow your military spouse, you know, there's different nuances there. And so some of it can get a little tricky navigating, but you know, that's where the website, the information we have posted, which we have been working hard to improve. If any of you have been in there in the past, they're scaling it back in size and rewriting it all. And they've hired some outside contractors to help with that, so we're really hoping it can be really user-friendly. But there's resources there to help you. And then we're also going to talk about some of the common problems. And one of the biggest ones we see with military veterans is not having your DD-214 or not having the right copy. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also other resources, and then we'll have time for question and answers. We don't really think our presentation is going to take the whole time unless you have a lot of questions. And we're all fine with, you know, just flag us down right in the middle before we go too far. You know, we don't want you to lose your question or not think of it. It's just to be a dialogue here, but present the information and have a conversation about it. Okay? All right, Kyla will be up first.
We'll use the microphone.
Oh, I just yelled, don't I? So.
Jennifer yelled. I'm not going to yell. So I'm just going to tell you a little about the unemployment insurance program itself. So unemployment provides temporary income when you lose your job through no fault of your own. And the benefits partially replace your last earnings just to try to help you pay expenses while you look for a new job, but they don't fully replace your earnings. Unemployment benefits, they're funded through taxes that your employer paid, your recent employers paid into the system for you. You don't actually pay that yourself, but you work for that benefit. And if you do receive unemployment benefits, the main requirement is that you try to get back to work as soon as you can. For the people that you are helping, that's good to know. Also, this does include people that are discharged from active military duty within the last 18 months. So there's two main ways to apply for unemployment insurance. You can file online, and that you basically set up a SAW or e-services account, which is Secure Access Washington account. Those are connected to pretty much any state agency that you do things through, your driver's license, all sorts of stuff. So you're going to set up that account, and then you're going to go to esd.wa.gov will get you there. And once you do that, then just complete an application for benefits. You can also submit an application with a benefits specialist on the phone, and that's the 1-800 number that's right here. But all of the information should be on those flyers too, and you can, that little QR code is going to take you right to the Veteran Services section on our website. So you may be eligible for benefits in Washington. If you're discharged from the military within the last 18 months, you have to be physically in Washington when you apply for benefits. So literally physically standing in the state. So that's one of the questions that'll ask you is, where are you right now when you go to apply for benefits?
And so if I can just interject there. So we get calls from people who fly into SeaTac. You can hear all the announcements in the background.
Yeah.
They're physically in Washington. And so they don't have to be living here. They don't have to have an address here. They just have to come here to file.
Yeah.
So that's something that a lot of people are confused on. They don't understand. And so especially when you think of neighboring states, Oregon, Idaho, Washington does pay quite a bit more than a lot of some of the other states. And so we even get people from the East Coast that fly in, fly out. They don't even leave
Groups
the
of
airport.
people, yeah, groups of people. Even sometimes they'll have a group of them and all be together.
Massachusetts.
They could go to Massachusetts. There's a few states that kind of pay that higher.
So I have a question.
So as a case manager and I'm engaging with a veteran who's getting ready, or a service member who's getting ready to transfer out of the military, and say they're transferring out of Florida and coming to Washington State, what happens if they've already applied for unemployment benefits in Florida before they got to Washington State?
It would have to be canceled before they can file a claim here.
Gotcha, thank you.
If they file it, our cross-matching will catch that it was filed in their state, and then it'll all just get locked up, and then it'll be red tape. So
Gotcha.
they can reach out to that state and get it canceled.
Everyone hear that? That's good
What if
information.
they've already been paid out on that claim?
Then they have to follow the state they filed in and were paid from. They have to follow their rules. Some states will allow them to still cancel and pay the money back. Other states may not allow it.
So it's also a good note if you're helping veterans that maybe have just recently left service but are going somewhere else, have them apply before they go, right? Have them do the application sooner than later so that we can get them paid out of Washington. Go ahead.
In that particular situation, what if they're going overseas or to a U.S. territory? How would that work?
To live,
Yes, like they've left the military, they're deciding they're maybe that's home for them,
Mhm.
but they apply for unemployment while they're here in Washington. How would that work though?
Generally speaking, you have to be able and available for work in the United States. There are
But-
very few exceptions to that. Trying to think of an
They-
example. Like
they
a
should-
military spouse who followed somebody that is stationed at a duty station outside of the United States.
Right.
They could potentially qualify even though they're not in the United States, but there are,
but I would
Few
encourage them to still
circumstances.
apply
Okay.
and make us go through that and
Yeah.
research it. You know, because if they're entitled to it, we can get it worked out. And so, yeah, they could quickly apply it. I mean, especially online. You know, you're talking, it's a half-hour process or something, going through all the questions.
Okay, great.
and when in doubt, apply. That's sort of the what I would tell you. When in doubt, have them apply. We can always check those eligibility requirements as we go through. And when in doubt, have them file with an agent if they can, because they can get a lot of those kinds of questions answered. We can kind of detect any issues that we see, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
What was that?
Yeah, up there it says, active duty within, discharge from active duty within the past 18 months. So within that 18 months, they start receiving payment for a service connection disability. Is that not gonna hinder their claim, am I correct?
Not as long as they're still able and available for full-time work.
Because a lot of the military disabilities have to do with the jobs they were doing, or like hearing loss, or, I mean, things like that of that nature. So they can still find viable work and
Right.
apply for work.
Most of my guys do. I
Mhm.
did run into one, he was required, you gotta know to pay back because they were considered a disability, military pension.
Pensions.
Pensions, yeah, pensions
Right.
different than disability payments.
Yeah, but his is straight, he showed me his disability letter. Somehow he answered where it was his pension.
If that happens
okay.
and it's in question and they've gotten a determination that denies them, they can always appeal that denial and have them relook at it.
So, Kyla,
Same circumstance, you can have them
and
appeal.
before you go on, one other thing. The most common question that people answer wrong is retirement questions.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people say yes because they're paying into a retirement plan. They have a 401k through their employer or something. That is different than being paid a pension or retirement from your employer. And that's what we're asking. Are you receiving a pension from your employer? But especially during the whole pandemic situation, we had thousands of people that answered it wrong. And then it's kind of a hassle and time consuming to get them all worked and cleared. And you know, a 24-year-old is not receiving a pension. They're just not. They don't understand. Yes.
Is there a way to just change that wording?
It has been changed.
So are you
Yes.
receiving?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they did update and changed it in the middle of the pandemic.
Go ahead.
So a military retiree then would not qualify for unemployment?
So it kind of depends. So if they were drawing benefits from, let's say they were discharged 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, and now they've been working and they're getting that pension, the pensions are only really impacting like the employers during their base period of their claim and forward. So if you have an old military pension, but you're now all of your work history, you've been working for a regular corporation, a state entity, something like that, that's non-military, then you very likely could still qualify.
But when they initially retire and they get that initial retirement pay, during that, they don't have that 18-month window though.
Correct, because they'd have that pension. They'd have to
Right.
declare that they're receiving that pension.
Okay.
And then that would be kind of like the employer paying twice,
Right.
you know, because they have the pension and then that employment for the exact same weeks.
But I would still say, still have them apply, because
Yeah.
sometimes we have to look at it, and sometimes they're getting a pension, but because of what they did in their work history, those kinds of things, maybe the pension, even if it's deductible, it doesn't deduct their whole weekly benefit amount. So there's a lot of factors there, so we're going back to the same, when in doubt, have them apply.
I have a question.
Yeah.
100 years ago, when I worked in unemployment, we would ask for a redetermination instead of an appeal if there was new information. Is that still the way it is?
They can ask for, I would suggest when they, like if they're gonna send in a letter, have them say, I'm requesting a redetermination or appeal.
Okay.
And that way, if we can
Do it.
look at it in-house and do it in-house, we'll do it. And if we can't, then we send it for appeal. So if you put kind of both of those words in there, that's how I would have always told people to do it, is ask for redetermination or appeal.
And every appeal request is reviewed to see if we can handle it in-house, because then we don't have to pay the fee for it to go to the Office
And
of
it's much
Administrative
faster,
Hearings.
right?
And it's a
It's
lot
faster.
faster.
A lot faster, especially after COVID land. So the eligibility requirements, you do, like we said, have to be physically in Washington. You have to have received an honorable entry-level, uncharacterized, or general discharge if you're trying to use those military wages for your claim. Received a release or discharge from active duty, or DD 214. A lot of times people get copy 1, and in order for us to process it, we actually have to have copy 2 through 8. But if you only have copy 1, still do the application, because that will at least get the process started. We don't have to worry about them not filing timely or trying to backdate a claim or anything like that. So still have them file, even if they don't have it yet.
Even if there's a typo, their name's wrong,
Yeah.
their anything's wrong, just file the claim.
Is there a
Absolutely.
difference between an honorable discharge and a DD 214?
The DD 214 is the form that they get that has all of the information about their actual their history, their military history. So it has like if they're getting terminal leave, where their duty station was, their
Starting
pay
when they-
rate, yeah,
when they
all of that kind of
enlisted.
stuff. Their enlistment dates, if they have any terminal leave, it has all of that kind of stuff on it. It's just the actual form they get, like a here, thank you for serving, document that has all of that info on it, and that's what we need to actually set up their claim initially, because military, federal government, typically not very fast at getting us the wage information, so we can take that document and actually set the claim up in advance. Okay. And then you have to have been fully discharged from active duty, and you have to be able to work, available for work, and actively seeking suitable work. So work that you can do. You can also receive benefits if you completed your full term or you were discharged for disability, hardship, reduction in force, or another reason that Department of Labor accepts. And then if you're a National Guard member or a reservist and you want to use those wages on your claim to set up your claim, you also have to have 180 days of continuous service for us to be able to use those. Okay.
And sometimes how the orders change, or they get a new set of orders, that can make it not continuous sometimes. But if in doubt, if they're not sure, just apply and we'll check it out.
And that includes not for training purposes, yes.
Correct. You're gonna hear us say that a lot. When in doubt, have them apply. And I think, Andrew, you're up next.
All right, so let's talk about benefits while in school and training. So we do have, you could potentially receive benefits if approved if you are attending school or a training program. Schooling, it kind of depends. The training program has to be approved, but again, apply and we'll get it figured out. So there's 3 training programs in specific that one of your veterans might fall into. And we'll talk about that, but the basics on this is you must keep looking for work, be available to work, and available for work. So those, again, that's just a common thread, that's just a general thread for unemployment eligibility in general, that able and available. Any of the application forms for the programs can be found on esd.wa.gov. And so you can download them, get them filled out, either by hand or digital, and get those submitted. We always suggest that you go to WorkSource and sit down with one of the specialists there to get that completed. We see a higher success rate when that happens. And again, I just mentioned that your training counselor at your local WorkSource office. So again, we do recommend that. We see more approvals through that route. And we will give you a determination letter. We're going to notify you in writing if you have been approved for the training program. So it's going to lay out the approval and then what your responsibilities are past that. All right, so the 3 programs are, we have CAT, which is Commissioner Approved Training. So that's going to be something where it's going to let you receive benefits for the period of time that you're in that approved school or training, and it's going to be along with that you're going to get your work search requirement waived. So you're not going to have to look for work while you're in that approved program. TB, that's our training benefits. This is something where it could actually give you additional weeks beyond the 26 regular weeks of unemployment. And that's going to, again, while you're in that training program, so it could extend your benefits. If we approve you for that program, again, it could go all the way to 52 weeks. It just depends what training you're in, the approval, what the period of time is. So that's something that specifically with the TB, the Training Benefits Program, we really suggest that you sit down with one of the WorkSource folks and get that completed. We also have SEEP, so that's our Self-Employment Assistance Program, and this is something that's going to let you get benefits while doing like entrepreneurial training, self-employment, sole proprietor stuff, getting your own business set up. You can get business counseling, getting that process completed, and again, with that, along with all the other programs, if approved, we will waive the requirement to have to look for work during that period of time. So it's going to lay out, the determination letter is going to lay out the period of time that you're approved for, and again, any responsibilities that you might have during that period of time.
Is the seat defined a little more in the handbook?
Yeah, so all the programs, in fact, if you hit the QR code or just esd.wa.gov, search for SEAP, that'll take you to all that information, and it'll really lay out, the whole program. And again, you'll find that the application form to download and complete.
Are people getting approved for seat?
As far as I know, we don't typically see a lot.
I've never seen one get approved, that's why I was curious. And at one time we were told there's no funding for the program, but I don't know.
Yeah, at this time, and again, we don't see a lot. I've maybe seen 2, and 2 that have been approved anyways.
Yeah.
So, but it's not often that we see that. But again, if somebody is really looking to make that move into the self-employment realm, that'd be a good place to steer them, and again, apply, and we'll see what happens. So.
I know you're not the expert on SEEP. I'm just curious, if someone wants to do that program, their self-employment would have to be what, would have to have some sort of, a certain wage level, or what would you,
yeah, so
the
that,
state look at to approve that?
Yeah, so there are some factors, and just generally speaking, it's going to have to be something that typically is like an in-demand kind of a deal. So they'll look at all the different occupations within the state and weigh that against what's in demand, what's in decline. And that's generally speaking, that's going to be a lot of the 3 programs anyways, is they're going to be that's one of the aspects they're looking at is kind of an in-demand thing, so.
The biggest difference of the 3 programs is that the SEAT program does not give you any additional weeks of unemployment benefits to help. It just waives the work search while you're setting up your own business.
All right, so you might have situations where you have a veteran and they have a spouse or partner, or it could be an active duty person and they have somebody tagging along with them. They have a change of duty station. They're looking at a move. So it's possible for a military spouse or partner to receive unemployment benefits. Now, they do have to have been working in the past 18 months, but that's something where if they meet the basic requirements, and again, one of them is that work in the past 18 months, and then having at least 680 hours worked in that period of time in your base year period. Again, they have to be able and available for work. And we're gonna have to review, so once they apply, then we're gonna have to review the reason for being unemployed. And typically that's, they're gonna follow their spouse to the new duty station, that kind of a thing. And so we'll look at that, make sure that they're not taking a vacation in the middle of it or something like that. But we'll review that reason for being unemployed. And again, that's with the military spouse or partner. And again, they could receive benefit payments. They don't have to be in Washington to file for that. It's going to be more where they worked, where their wages are attached to.
My question is, we've been told they also should include, they need to have a copy of their order.
Yes.
Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Often-
their spouse's orders, if the case.
Often those are, so anytime there's a separation that's anything other than just a layoff or lack of work, we have to review it. But usually, depending on circumstances, that is one of our allowable reasons if you quit a job. Quitting is often harder for us to allow benefits than if you were separated for a termination where it was not a blatant error or something like that. So it is a little bit harder, but that usually is one of the reasons. The one thing I would note is you do have to still try to remain connected to that employer or working for that employer as long as is reasonable before you move. And that part's important because that's the piece that people I see get denied a lot on is
That's what
their spouse separates, they're like, great, we're gonna go on vacation for 4 weeks. They quit their job. Well, now they didn't remain employed as long as was reasonable, and then they don't qualify for benefits. So that's something just to note in your head. Stay connected as long as you can before you actually move.
And file it as a voluntary quit with the reason, followed spouse.
Followed spouse.
With military orders. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
And also, when they're filling out the questionnaires, don't do the 1-2 word answer thing. Explain the situation. I mean, sometimes people fill it out and they don't give the adjudicators enough to make the decision on. And adjudicators, if they recognize it's not enough, they reach out and call or email, whatever the contact preference is, and try to get more information. But sometimes it's just yes, no, or I don't know the date, or just kind of some vague stuff. Sometimes people end up getting denied, and then it gets redetermined later, and they wouldn't have to go through that whole process if they just gave more information up front. And it is considered reasonable when you're moving to follow your military spouse and stuff to quit maybe a week early because you have to pack up your house and stuff like that. They are reasonable about things like that, but it can't be a month early or 2 months. And we see all sorts of different things because that military spouse is sometimes on leave and doing things before, and so the other spouse just kind of follows along and does that too, but they don't meet it then with Washington state rules. And that also goes for overseas. You could be restationed overseas somewhere on a base, and then you might be working on base somewhere, but you can still get it and be looking for jobs on base. So it's not just in the U.S.
All right, so just to address some of the common issues we will see, really on a daily basis, the biggest one is no DD-214. Or we're waiting on a copy or corrected copy. Again, file the claim, get that going, and then get the DD-214 to us when you can. But that really will expedite the whole process, again, because otherwise we're waiting on the DOD to get back to us and with the wage verification. So again, DD 214, have it ready. That's what we suggest when filed. If you don't, again, file anyway and get it to us as soon as you can. With that DD 214, we have the incorrect page number. So we most often see member copy 1, page 1. We cannot use that. If I had to give you a specific page number 4, please. That's our target page, but member copy 4 will really get us everything we need. Now we can accept 2 through 8 certainly, but member copy 4 is really the sweet spot. If you can get that, if they can get that to us, we'll get them taken care of quite quickly, typically. And again, the not physically standing in Washington when the claim is filed. If you aren't, you're going to cause a lot of issues, a lot of red tape. It's going to be a fight to kind of get that going. So again, the physically standing in Washington State, SeaTac Airport, driving across from Idaho in a van or something, whatever it takes, make sure that you're physically standing in Washington. So. Terminal leave is not ended. This is another big one. We'll see folks apply, which would overlap their terminal leave date when that expires. So again, if they've applied and their terminal leave is not yet up, more red tape, more issues, delay in benefits, to a point where you might actually have to file a new claim from the point at which your terminal leave is ended. So that's something that definitely want to check on. I mean, they should have their DD 214 anyways, and a lot of that, or all that information should actually be on there. So terminal leave as well, that's something to be aware of. We don't want to see that overlap the start of the claim itself.
Just a note too, one thing that I have seen people be denied for is they're like, how are they gonna know I was standing in Washington? And they check IP addresses. There's all sorts of stuff that they check. So just as a note, like if they're in Idaho and you're talking to them, say literally drive across and call because they can tell. And that's something that you can even get in trouble with fraud for, so you don't want them to do that. So.
I have a question. And if you're going to get to this already, we can wait until we get there, but I'm thinking about that veteran who's going to be applying for veteran readiness and employment benefits through Veteran Affairs Administration. In the 100 years ago when I was a case manager, that was a challenge in them receiving unemployment benefits and receiving VR&E benefits. Is that still a barrier?
I don't know what that is.
It's the vocational rehabilitation program through the VA, where they pay for their schooling and education and stuff like that.
Yes, we do ask that question, yes or no, so that could be a disqualifying thing potentially, but there again, they would look into it and get all the information about it.
So just so the audience is clear, if they're receiving VR&E benefits, they cannot be receiving unemployment insurance benefits at the same time?
I don't know that 100%, but I would say apply
Potentially,
and
yeah.
let's figure it out, you know.
When in doubt, apply. It is a question on the application, and they'll get additional paperwork to ask them, like what kind of things you're getting, what are the criteria and things like that. And then our adjudication department will make a determination on whether if that means that they can't get unemployment or not.
So just one follow-up question. If the veteran has applied for VR&E, has not yet been approved, that could take 3 to 6 months before that comes into play. Should they be holding off and applying for unemployment benefits?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Because every quarter, the old quarter of wages drops off, and if you haven't been working, there's not new quarters to come in. So if anything, filing the claim locks the wages in, so it protects it, so if you can get approved later, or, so.
I was just gonna say, if they're doing VR&E, they might not be available for work.
Right.
So that would, just
Right.
That's why I said
make
apply.
it unavailable.
Yeah, it depends on this. It depends on the situation. So that's why
But
I
they
would
might
say
apply
apply.
for CAT and be approved for CAT and do VR&E.
Yeah, it
Because they can
possible.
literally double dip.
Yeah, I mean, that does seem a little double.
Veteran benefit and that, I would
Yeah.
think.
So this is to kind of piggyback on Seth's question. So I have worked with veterans that are, whether they're using their GI Bill or VR&E, they did apply for CAT. They were approved for CAT to keep doing that. but a question that I could never seem to get an answer to through like our UI ambassador or anything like that is if they're in an approved work study position, they're being paid through the VA, but tax-free. When they're filing their unemployment, do they still claim that as wages, even though it's tax-free?
So work study, there's a couple different funds that pay it, and it depends on where it comes from, and I don't have that memorized. But I know you have my email address, and so you could send me the details on that, and we could look into it, and I could look that up.
Okay, cool.
I would say when in doubt though, have them report it as earnings because generally speaking, if they worked to earn it, they should report it. But if it comes back that that's, I can't remember what title it is, but if that comes back that's from one of those pools of money that's not reportable, it's way easier for us to remove earnings that they've already put in than for them to have not reported it and now have an earnings issue and have to pay back benefits.
Right.
So when in doubt, have them report it. We can always back it back out of there if we find out it's not reportable.
And some work study earnings can be used on future claims, and some cannot. So,
Maybe, I just didn't see this, but how long are you eligible, meaning you're getting unemployment, how long is that?
So normally, and I guess we could just speak to maybe it's a veteran claim, recently discharged in the past 18 months. A normal claim is going to be 26 weeks. Now you have 52 weeks to use that, but you only have 26 weeks worth of benefits. And again, depending on what training program, if that's something they're doing, potentially could extend benefits if approved. But normal claim, and this is for everybody, is 26 weeks worth of benefits, and that claim itself lasts a year. Good question.
and if somebody is maybe working part-time or something, they can report their earnings each week and keep their claim open and get partial benefits, or they might work a week and then be off a week. They just keep claiming, report when they do work, and you report your earnings the week you work and earn it, not when you're paid. And then they could potentially be paid for the weeks they're not working, but they do still have to be looking for work, trying to get their hours up to full-time.
Go ahead.
The other question I had is, let's say, again, stuff happens and both spouses end up being fired or let go or whatever. Are they both eligible to obviously apply separately, but are they both eligible since, live in the same household or everything?
It's
Are
a
they both
per,
eligible
yeah,
to
thank
do
you
it?
for that question. It's a per person benefit.
Okay.
It's per employee, right? So per claimant, it's not a household thing. It's not like an entitlement program like DSHS where it depends on your whole household's income or something like that. It's specific to the individual and their work and earnings. Yeah.
Another question, so again, go back to 18 months. Let's say a veteran that when you got this military, the VA said, hey, let's go ahead and fix your knee up. It's gonna take you about 9 to 10 months for rehab and follow-on surgeries. So can they file on month 13, 14, they'll still be okay?
Well, we have a special kind of claim called a temporary total disability claim. And so if you are out of work for 13 or more weeks because of an injury or illness, there's a special kind of claim that we can file that lets us just use the base period from prior to when they actually had their injury or illness.
Okay.
So that is an option. I think that's
Yeah, that's an option. I mean, typically speaking, as long as there's some wages within that base period, that's really what we're looking for. So it could be that, they might not have, I'll say this, with military claims, we're going off the rank at time of discharge. That's how we set up the monetary amounts of the claim.
Okay.
So each quarter would be set up identical. So to your question, if they file like on the 13th month of that period or what have you, as long as there's still those wages in there, because as we go forth in the calendar, quarters are going to
Well,
drop.
not working after discharge, there's getting continued military you're still getting treated for
Yeah.
service-connected injuries.
Yeah, so again, that might be something we're looking at too, because, if they might be attached in some sort of a medical leave or something. So again, you have to have that, full discharge, and then, if it's a special circumstance, like that, again, we'll be looking at that, but.
We get all the questions you guys get.
Oh yeah.
One-
Okay, we'll talk about the resources. Pretty straightforward. We got esd.wa.gov. It's pretty user-friendly. Typically speaking, you can just type a search criteria up in the bar, and it's going to give you take you right to it. More often than not, we also have the links on the sides, the tabs at the top there. Again, pretty easy to navigate. To get to what we're looking at. In this case, specifically, Veteran Services is under the Jobs and Training section. So this is where they will be going to apply for benefits, esd.wa.gov. On the Home tab, there is a login for their e-services account, so they can file, manage their claim week to week, everything. They'll be doing it through esd.wa.gov.
That little QR code that's on the little form that we gave you, you literally just scan it with your camera, and then you can click it, it'll take you right there, but it's gonna take you to this page, and if you look right here, this is actually those training applications for like Commissioner Approved Training, Self-Employment Assistance, all that stuff is right here too.
And we love our partners and our friends at WorkSource. More often than not, we'll refer somebody to WorkSource to talk to one of the specialists, or again, seek assistance with one of those applications for one of the training programs. But WorkSourceWA.com, that is a great resource for, again, training materials, job seeking, the whole 9 yards, finding your local WorkSource office. That's all there at WorkSourceWA.com. All right, and then to really get in touch with us, as always, you can call us 1-800-318-6022, 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. We're not around on holidays, but get through, talk to an agent, get your questions answered, get your claims filed, whatever the case may be. You can definitely get through to us over the phone. We do hit our high peak periods, typically in the wintertime, so it can be a struggle, but keep trying and get through that way. We also have a callback feature that they can utilize. For e-services help getting an account set up, we do see that there might be problems setting up account. There could have been an old one in there. Whatever the case may be, give the folks at the SAW help desk a call, and they can get that e-services side of it going up and running to where they can log in, file their weekly claims, file a claim, the whole 9 yards there. So that's going to be your technical assistance for that online portal. And again, e-services, esd.wa.gov, username, password. That's going to take you to your personal, the claimant's personal dashboard. Manage their claims, send us a message. Again, whole 9 yards. You can do basically everything you need to do with your claim through that website. And we recommend folks utilize that as well, because a lot of information can be found there. You can, again, send us documents, send us your DD-214, quick and easy. And lastly, we do have some folks that work accommodations. So we do have a dedicated team. So if the folks you're helping, they have a disability that affects their ability to use regular services, be it the phone, online, you can always contact the accommodations team by email or by phone, and we'll get you taken care of. They're really good at what they do. They're really good at contacting back and forth and getting folks set up and taken care of. Even if it's just filing a weekly claim, they'll get you taken care of. And again, we have on the handout, we have our QR code. We have that here. That'll take you to esd.wa.gov with our veteran services, so you can utilize that as well.
So I got 3 questions I'm going to ask. some myths that are bouncing around the Everett office, an office in Washington. One is call before 8 o'clock, call like at 7:30 and ask for a call back as the best way to get to speak to an agent that day. The second one is we have unemployment insurance ambassadors, but the bottom line is none of us at WorkSource can answer a question. We always tell them, ask them, call them. And the third one is the best way to file appeal, file redetermination, or file identity is uploaded through the claimant's file.
E-services,
Yeah.
E-services.
So
So the first one, don't call at 7:30, the phone lines aren't turned on yet. A couple minutes before, if you start dialing in, you can sometimes get through the phone tree, but they really don't turn on until 8 o'clock.
okay, good.
So
Good to know.
if you call it at 7:30, I think it's gonna just tell you the office is closed.
Yeah.
Also
So
closed.
it's not, yeah, it's not really
Thank
gonna
you.
help.
So as far as you mentioned the ambassadors in your second question, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate all our ambassadors. They work directly with a support team on our side.
Yeah.
So if there is any questions, extenuating circumstances, what have you, they have that point of contact to go back and forth. Also, I believe most all WorkSource offices have a dedicated phone to pick up.
We do.
Yeah. And that should get you through pretty quick, typically speaking.
What do you guys like to see us do before we allow somebody to use the bypass phone?
So the rules for that phone is they're supposed to have tried to get through. You know, they should have been trying on their own. If they
Yep.
just walk in and say, I need unemployment services, and have you called the claim center yet? Have you gone online and filed? No. Then just, help them maybe set up their SAW account if you have a computer available for them and they want to do that, or have them go home and call. That special phone in the WorkSource offices is supposed to be for the people who I've been trying to get through for 2 weeks and I can't get through, and I have this problem with my claim. That's the people you want to get on the phone right away.
And do you want, I've looked at the IVR under UTAB and it's not always clear whether they've tried it or not.
That's okay.
Okay.
If they say it, we take their word at it. You can just take their
Good
word at it
answer.
too.
Thank you very much.
We're not here to police any of that. If they say they tried and can't get in, go ahead and help them.
Thank you.
Also, I think if it's still this way on our new phone system, but when you dial, if you don't even get to the spot where you can put your social security number in, it doesn't log that in either.
Doesn't track.
So it doesn't.
Yeah.
So if they got high call volume before they even got there, that's not gonna help us.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
trust them if they say they can't get through.
Yeah, just,
See, lots of things changing. Lots of people that work at our WorkSource previously worked as what you do. And so some things have changed.
And the last question was related to the appeals, and definitely if they log into their e-services account,
Yeah,
they can see any denials of benefits or anything
Yes.
that's holding it up. There's actually a spot that says appeal. And
yes.
so it gives them the option to do that. It is the fastest way. It gets uploaded faster. Otherwise, you're faxing documents and then they come to our office, and if they're not barcoded, a human actually has to look at those, figure out where they go and attach them. It's a lot longer process.
Super,
So
thank you.
online is definitely the best way to appeal,
Great answers.
if they can get that in.
I ran into this a couple of times and I'm saying, I really don't know, so just apply like you say, but like a transitioning service member, they have 18 months to apply. I've worked with a couple where their terminal leave ends and they get a job and then a week later they're like, this is not working, and they quit that job. Are they then ineligible to apply for unemployment since they started a job right after their military service?
they can always apply, but that separation of why they quit or were fired, either way, has to be looked at. And so it is harder to get benefits when you quit a job. You have to prove that you did everything you could to preserve that job and that paycheck that you had. Whereas if the employer fires you or you're discharged, that is more the burden of proof on the employer as to why they had good cause to fire you and weren't working with you anymore on preserving the job.
So even if like they work a job for 2 days out of the military, like that's still taken in.
Yeah.
But again, I would say still apply, because even if they apply in that situation, right? They apply, they've locked in a claim with using all those military wages. They go back and find a job maybe after that quit if they got denied benefits for some reason. They find a job, they work for a while and they get laid off. They'd be able to keep that claim with all of those good wages and that nice weekly benefit amount. Because we can end quit denials after a certain time period. So if they've gone back to work and they've made enough money and it's been enough weeks, that's 7 weeks for them and 7 times whatever the weekly benefit amount is on a quit, then at that point we can get the benefits again. So I would say still have them apply, because then they can lock in that good weekly benefit amount from their military service versus maybe, whatever job they decided to take.
Even if they know they're going to be denied. I mean, like, I don't know, punch their boss in the face. I mean, something crazy that, that's going to be really hard to get benefits on. But they should still apply, because, like Kyla said, it locks in the wages, and so it can help them later on.
Yeah, for sure.
So if they're on terminal leave, they should apply.
No, because
When
they're
their
not.
terminal leave ends.
Yeah, when it ends. Because
When it ends.
when they're physically on leave, they're still being paid by the military.
Okay.
They're not, yeah.
They're
While
not-
you're on terminal leave, you're not separated from military service technically yet. So you have
Chances
to
are
wait
they're
till-
gonna go to their home state while they're on terminal leave.
Those are the people actually
That fly in or
fly
drive
in
in.
or drive in and apply here. That happens a lot, actually.
Because they're on terminal leave, so they come here because they're coming here?
Well, no,
Fly
they
in.
can't file, well, they can file when they're on terminal leave, but they wouldn't qualify.
Yeah.
So their terminal leave has to be up, has to be.
What he was
ended.
saying is they separate from service, and during their terminal leave, they go home,
Right.
wherever they're from and not in Washington. And then, in theory, they'd have to apply there, right? Because you can't apply till the terminal leave is over. But I was an agent for 10 years, and you would get people like, hold on, can you talk to my buddy? We all came over on a bus. It's like,
Yeah.
try to hand us the phone, because like groups of them would come because they know they could get more money here.
And really, if you think about it, if the difference in pay is several $100s a week, it really can make a difference. And so even though airfare is expensive, I mean, there's family members with miles, whatever, there's tricks to get into the state and to get it filed.
And if
and
they're
it's-
getting Washington benefits, they don't have to be available for work in Washington. It's
No.
just in the
Correct.
United States. Oh,
Correct.
wow.
Mhm. And so we would refer them to file with their local work source office for assistance in finding work or making resumes or
In
whatever they
Missouri
need.
or Tennessee.
Yeah, they can be anywhere in the US.
And they just have to be looking for work either in their local labor market or where they're willing to move.
I feel like as a Washington resident and taxpayer, we shouldn't maybe advertise that.
But it's paid by the military.
It's paid by the
Okay.
It's the federal government is reimbursing for
I
the
feel
military
better.
claims.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
that's
just,
their rule.
it's just the way it works. And there are states that pay very low in unemployment, and Washington pays quite a bit more per week. So. And if anyone should be able to find this loophole, it would be the military
Right,
people.
for sure.
But that's something to tell them too. You can find all of that information online. You can find what maximum weekly benefit amounts are in every state. And that's public information, so you can tell them that and they can make the decision on what they want to do.
And they, by their rank, I mean, it's broken out exactly, so it's not
Follow
hidden,
my
it's
YouTube
just
channel.
the time to do it.
But generally, Washington's probably top 3, top 4 for the highest paying state, so that's why we get a lot here. Other questions?
Cody, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think I probably answered it myself, but if they are, they're not living in Washington State, but they're receiving benefits, are they still subjected to the RESEA? And I don't know if you would know that, but like having an RESEA appointment, but then they can just do it virtually, if that was the
Yeah, I
case.
believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I used my brain, but I thought I was asked.
Cody is the Depop here in Spokane WorkSource. So when you guys refer people to talk to the veterans there, you're talking about this girl.
That's
right
why
here.
she quickly got my email address, so she came in.
Yep.
And I'm glad, because I always call her.
There you go.
Great network.
Notice we all gave you Jennifer's.
That's okay when I don't know the answer and can't find it online. Kyla, Andrew.
I'll be sending you an email
So is there a certain amount of times that someone can apply? What I mean by that, let's say they just have really bad luck where they're, been looking for work, and let's say they get almost to the very end of that amount of times, they finally find a job, have it for like a year, but end up getting, let's say, laid off from that, and they go to reapply. Is there a certain amount of times where you're like, hey, you can no longer apply, or is there like a actual total amount of weeks?
As long as you're going back to work, I mean, so your claim's there for a year, right? You have that year to use that 26 weeks. Once that year ends, as long as you've returned to work and earned a certain amount, you can keep filing. I mean, we have, for example, there's a lot of union guys and gals that will apply, and they'll do it year after year after year, basically the same time. But again, they're returning to work and they're earning 6 times their weekly benefit amount of the prior claim. As long as you meet those requirements, you can keep going.
And the 680 hours.
Yeah, and of course, your basic
We
eligibility.
have claims that when we pull them up, they file every single year, especially seasonal workers, things like that. Construction, paving, all of that kind of stuff. And they file every year, and their unions, they know they do it, right? That's part of the deal. So there's not a requirement as long as you meet all the other eligible requirements.
Union workers that cross borders and travel with work, there's another one that come into Washington to file. And all their employers, we just have, it takes a little bit longer to set up because we have to get the employment history from all those different states. But it's all those employers that pay that tax for it, and so, but, it's worth it to them because they get quite a bit more per week.
You'll see that on the border states especially. They're like, can I just get one job in Washington? They just want to cross over and work, because if you work 1 hour in Washington, if you have an hour that's in Washington, we can bring all the wages here. So we get that a lot, actually. Other questions?
So if I have they have to, I'll just throw it out there. I have a National Guard, lives in Idaho, has worked in Washington, but he doesn't apply for employment in Washington, he only applies in Idaho, but he should apply in Washington.
If he's working in both places especially, have him apply in Washington. Idaho does not have a very high maximum weekly benefit amount.
Very low.
But they don't have the 680 hour requirement, right?
They don't.
So if you don't have enough hours to qualify for a Washington claim, their best bet might be an Idaho claim at a lower rate.
But apply in Washington first, because then we'll tell you that. And we also have the ability to talk to other states. So if he's not eligible here, there's a screen that we can send information that the other state can look on and say like, oh, he didn't qualify in Washington, he applied here. And often the other state's gonna listen, like they'll take our word for it and backdate the claim and stuff. So if it's those kind of scenarios though, I would still have them try here if they have work here.
And the Washington Guard counts as work.
If it's over the 180 days, then we can use that.
And with that, when he or she goes to training, they have to tell us, hey, I worked, this is my daily rate, daily pay. You have to report that on your weekly claim. So the week in which you work or in training, you're what, 2 weeks a month, or 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. You do have to report that. The one thing we do say is, when they're in training, it's like a 24-hour thing sometimes. We're just going off a normal work day. So 8 hours. That's all. Just if you were training that day, you earned money that day, just 8 hours, and then whatever the pay rate was. Because we'll see a lot of times they'll say, oh well, I worked 40 hours on one day, 24 hours on one day, or 48 hours, and then that will disqualify for them for that period of time because they worked too much. So again, that's something we try to pass along as well, is when they're in National Guard Reserve training, just 8 hours on your weekly claims.
And when in doubt, have them call and talk to an agent, because even though sometimes it's a little hard to get through, those agents know their stuff, right? So they're going to give them the right information or get them to the right person who will have that information. And generally, I would say file, right? When in doubt, file. If you have earnings, always report them, because we can fix it going the other way, but we can't fix it if you didn't tell us you worked. Then you end up with overpayments and stuff. So just have them report it.
Do you guys have data on how long somebody will stay on hold?
Yes.
You know, I have a
I'll look at it.
young population and they get, well, I was on hold too long. That's your fault, buddy.
Yeah, so, you know, they need to try again if they don't have the time to hold. I know that at times it's like 20 minutes, other times it can be up to an hour if it's like right at lunch hours or Monday morning so it varies a lot. And then of course in the wintertime when, because of the weather and stuff, we have so much seasonal unemployment, it gets really rough then. And we do have some new strategies we're trying this year to help with that. But whether or not it's successful. So, but yeah, tell them just keep trying. And also the e-services, filing online, most of our initial claims or reopening of claims is done online. I mean, I think only about 5% of it is handled on the phone because everyone's filing online, and really the phone is people with the questions with where they said they're drawing retirement and they're 27 years old and they're not drawing a retirement, and trying to get all of those things fixed is what jams up the phones.
So don't tell them not to call Monday morning, because that's really hard to get through. And don't wait until the lunch hour to start calling, because then it's really hard to get through. The people that get through call first thing in the morning, generally speaking, not on Mondays, and they keep trying. That's my best tip. If you don't want to hold that long or you can't hold that long, that's okay, but just they have to keep trying to get through.
And utilize the web messages on e-services too. I mean, that's, you know, right now anyways, we're pretty good about getting responded to those in a timely manner. That, you know, again, depending on the time of year, we get a lot of those.
They
But,
do get bogged down though, so.
But that's another avenue as well.
And the more web messages you guys get, the more agents get off the phone and get to answer those, right?
Yeah.
And if they keep sending us web messages over and over and over and over and over again, instead of sending one and waiting, then it goes from this many web messages we have to answer to this many web messages we have to answer. So if they're going to go the web message route, have them send one and just be a little patient. But we do get to all of them.
Can you tone down the language on the yellow letter, please?
What's the yellow letter?
Yes,
Oh, yes, yellow. It's
That's
like,
not the-
you
Oh,
will
that's not
you
us.
will lose a child if you don't.
Sorry, that's not
That
us.
one's not us.
Sorry, yes.
We have been trying, at least on our documents, they've been working really, really hard to make sure everything is plain talk. It's talk that everybody can understand.
They've actually been doing studies where they take it out to groups of public
Focus
people.
groups,
I don't
yeah.
know how they find these people, but they just take it out and, you know, what do you think this means? What do you think these instructions are telling you? And so it's really helped, and it's really kind of made it so our executive leaders recognize that we needed to make some of these changes, that it was really important. Because even though it's time and money, of course, every time we make changes, sometimes they're really needed. And so we're hoping it will really help us this next peak season.
And they really, really are working on equity and accessibility and things like that. I think that focus has really helped us look at things differently. When I started 100 years ago also, I couldn't understand what some of our letters meant. And I'm like, if I work here and I did all this training and I don't know what this means, how is a normal person off the street going to understand what this means? So they're making a very concerted effort to try to fix that.
Run it through chat.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Did you?
What is-
Yeah, I would.
I have a question. So as far as those changes with the letters, does that go for in Spanish as well?
Mhm.
Other languages?
Yes.
Yep.
Good.
And they're actually working on adding additional languages. You know, they can track our interpreter service usage on the phones, and so we know what our most popular languages are. And it's funny because in the last 10, 15 years, they have changed. Because I just saw a recent list, and I can't remember what it was, but one of them, I don't remember if it was Korean, that used to be a pretty common, and now some of them dropped off and new ones came on, and so
We used to have Tagalog too, and it's not on the list anymore.
Yeah,
But they
What is
actually
the
did.
top? What is it?
I don't remember, yeah.
But they, several of those documents actually are now already available in multiple languages.
Right.
So, like the what's next and
Vietnamese.
Yeah.
PBR. Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, so it's like the what's next letter and the PBR is now available in 5 languages. So
They're
whereas
working on it.
Historically, it was always just English and Spanish, and so they are expanding, but not all of the determination letters. But it is increasing, and it is, our system has the capability to have it in other languages. So when we can get to it and, you know, have the manpower to do that, it will be done.
Super informative, you guys.
Yeah.